Today we continue on the third day of a 6-day sprint to redesign and rebuild the This Week In website. Today Jacob Patasi, Ari, and myself continue even though we had some roadblocks last week. Stick around and watch us work. Welcome to episodio número 45 of This Week in Web Design. I am your host, Jose Caballero, CEO and Chief Educator of digital agency The Group. Every week you join us to watch us work on the design, the strategy, and the technology of web projects. Today is no different. Thank you for joining us. How are you, gentlemen? Welcome.
Good to be here. Always
Welcome back, Ari.
Thank you.
We were in Venezuela hanging out with Chavez.
Yeah, Viva Chavez.
Viva Chavez.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Jacob, from Stopper New Media. It's great to have you. I'm going to put my red mic over here. It's not real, but it looks super cool. So I wanted to get really into it, and one of the things that producer Ryan and I were talking about was who we're talking to. If you're a freelancer, if you are a student, if you are a web designer of any ilk, and likely either internally at a company, or it could be that you're changing careers or you're at a startup. Whatever your situation might be, our goal is to share some real-world techniques by doing it here like a kitchen. We're actually cooking and you're watching us cook, hopefully taking away some of the knowledge. You can ask us questions. You know, people that ask us questions get every single one of their questions answered. Facebook below here. You can leave us questions also on YouTube, right in the channel when we're rebroadcast. Don't forget to actually do a great review on iTunes. It really helps us out a lot with our sponsors, and just to know that you like us and that we don't feel lonely in this, dark world of the internet. It's not that dark, but just let us know what you need, what questions you have. Don't feel like you can't ask us questions. We will respond to your questions. All right, so let's get started. I'm kind of excited to continue. The roadblock we had last week was that we hadn't defined one of the sections enough.
Right.
We were calling it episodes. We were calling it show.
Show and then episode. It was just, it's kind of a jumbled, mess. I thought I knew what I was talking about. Everybody else thought they were knowing. So
It happens.
Yeah.
So is that the page that we kind of did roughly last week?
Yeah, so
okay,
if we can, give me the IP again so that I can bring up the progress that we have. It's 192.168.124. Is that right? Yes, it is. I remember it. 19727 Jenny. However that song goes. So this is a page we were able to build last week. We got the logo in. Actually, we can lower that light right here so that we can see that a little bit. Except it lowers our lights in general. So live website redesign looks good. The text looks nice big. We integrated Facebook, so we got pretty far along.
Good deal.
But all the related content we can't drop in because we need to do the page. You did a version of the page, which I have right here. So for the viewers, what happened was that in Drupal, can you explain the technical aspect of Drupal, how nodes work? Like, why can't we do one? First of all, what the hell is Drupal? We're sitting here like if everybody knows what the hell Drupal is.
yeah, it's like, we're using Drupal. It's awesome.
What is that? It sounds like you got a cold and your nose is
Right.
running. And talk close to Ari so that our mic gnome quit. He went union.
What's up with that, Mike? No.
We won't work. We're the 99% of gnomes. So talk to us a little bit about Drupal.
Drupal's
I don't know.
Drupal's a content management system, so it allows you to easily manage all the content on your site. It lets you go in and, if you have a page like the one we have, not there anymore, but
Yeah, like the one we had up.
like the one we had up, and you have the main area, and you want to change it. Without the content management system, you'd have to go find a nerd that knows HTML, CSS, and go in and make the tiniest changes. With the content management system, it's just filling out a form. Almost everybody on the internet knows how to fill out a simple web form. It's just here's.
You can show the back end of this. How do I log into? Here, actually, powered by Drupal. So Ari, you know how to do WordPress. You know how to use some kind of basic kind of content management systems out of the box. Squarespace, which we use. So how do we explain to a student, for example, who's starting out, with HTML and the difference between a content management system and like straight up like just coding?
Wow. I'd say the biggest thing is it's just after the fact. Right, like after the site is done. Traditionally, what you used to do was do maintenance for a client, like forever. now you're basically handing him a system by which he can do a lot of the, and most of the changes
She
that
can
come
update
out.
it herself,
Exactly, and most of the changes are regarding the actual content. So
not the design.
right.
So the way that I can equate it, and if I can equate it to viewers like that, if content management systems are, again, if you understand, in a Word document, you can publish a Word document because you're using the tool to build a Word document, which is Microsoft Word. In the web, you write an HTML page and you put graphics and links in it and you get a page. It basically is very tedious if you were going to update that by hand every time content changes, if you have many pages. So it's the difference between you have a house and you go in and you build it from scratch, you put the foundation, you put the framing, you put the walls on it, you put the roof, you put everything, you decorate it, bam, and you're done, and then you have to make changes to the house all the time. So that's a problem. Hey, I need to change this wall here, or I need to add new people or new decor, whatever. Well, actually, not decor even, content, new people.
Right.
You're switching people around or whatever the small details might be in the house. With a content management system, it's like you got the foundation and the frame of the house.
It's like prefab.
And it's prefab. Yeah, it's prefab. It's painted white.
Right.
There's no real kind of look and feel, but you can apply a theme to that house, like we just did with ours, which is we actually applied a theme that we found on Drupal.org.
Right.
And a theme is kind of like a designed, already pre-designed template for it. So it's like in Word, or they have like the certificate templates, or the you have a template for your what do you call it, for your
There are Word templates.
there were
yeah.
templates, not
Totally.
pages as templates, but for everything from forms to certificates to budgets to pre-populated templates for your resume. You can have templates. Same exact thing. The difference is this is for an entire site. Why Drupal? Why should I use Drupal over? Why should I never just use WordPress like they're using now?
WordPress was built as a blogging system, and it's slowly evolved into being, a little bit more. Drupal was built to be this just, here's a system, do what you need to do with it, and it's almost evolved into a framework instead of just a content management system. By framework, there's, everything in the back end that I can grab out as, developer and actually build on. Like I could build on the user system, I could build on.
So you can add user profiles, you can
Yeah.
add all these different types of features and functionality that you don't have to build from scratch.
Exactly, and there's plenty of modules, which are just plugins that people put out there, keep maintenance on.
Open source community.
Yeah, it's an open source community, real friendly, so you can, I think
What
it's
are the
friendly.
what are the cons on Drupal? A lot of people, what would it be like a negative thing? What would it be? Complain or not be excited?
Drupal's a little hard. It's not. It's definitely going into like with the latest Drupal 7 to be a little bit easier and friendlier on the back end for the users. And so with Drupal 6, and the previous versions, it was just notoriously hard to understand, like to get a grasp on where everything is. Like, where's my content? It's like, oh, it's here. Go there, and
it did so much. It was so vast. It was so big. It could be complex.
It got really big and it got really kind of hard. So that's a lot of the negative.
And something I remember from projects even that we did together was that it was not very flexible on the front end, like to make changes. I remember this coming up.
It's less about the flexibility. We've made it do with Chris, with Stauffer's team, we've made Drupal dance. Look like anything we wanted to do.
Right.
It's actually an interesting kind of theming takes time. And what I've seen is that, this is insights from Jose and working in Drupal. What I've seen is that if you have a very experienced Drupal developer who can really kick ass on the themes, they can really change things around very easily while still maintaining.
Maybe that's what was
functionality.
lacking before.
When you don't have that, like we had a project that we worked on with a developer who was okay, but it wasn't his priority to, not in Stauffer's, not at your company, but it was a freelancer. He didn't have as a priority the theming portion of it, so it was more challenging. And it takes time. And that wasn't what he liked to do. He wanted to he did whatever he wanted to the system. He was a badass making the system sing. But the front end, not interested in it. So we are more interested in the front end. So I would say experience and then kind of simplification. What we did here was great. Instead of forcing, the developer, Jacob, to kind of go into our theme and do a custom theme, we said, let's start from an existing theme and let's build it out. And we're building a content site that isn't necessarily quote unquote rocket science. A lot of the work that we did during the strategy phase actually led more, I think, to the content being structured and the way we were doing content from a positioning of the network to be guided than even the design of the network. Because you've done big projects that we've done together with content where we came in and we said, hey, it's about the content, but we were guided by the client, no, just work on the platform to deliver it.
With filler text everywhere.
Not just that, the content strategy was just like, not great. And what happened to the startup? It failed.
Right.
We had no say on the content. Here we do. Actually, we are the content to some degree, and we're part of it, right?
Yeah.
Moving on. So let's get some work done. So what page do we need to get done today, gentlemen?
We got to get done the list of episodes page.
Do you have that page already from our?
I don't know, do I? I don't think so.
You
the
did
list of episodes.
Really it has a Chrometa app there at the right.
It's this one, right?
I don't have the latest one. I don't like the Chrometa.
I changed it. I mean, I use like their background.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's nice.
Right.
Can you hand that over to me? So that's the page.
So
this is a graphic.
Yeah, if you scroll down. Oh, okay, so that's just a graphic.
That's just a graphic.
Yeah, no problem.
This isn't. This is just from the screenshot. I can remove this stuff.
No, that's.
Whoa.
I need to update my Chrometa here while we're doing this. Chrometa maintenance.
But how are we showing more than just 4?
I think it just keeps, unless you want to design some sort of pagination.
Yeah,
or...
we gotta have some kind of pagination.
Okay,
We
I'll
can't
do
bring in like all 60 or.
What does the pagination look like default? It does have some, right?
Default pagination, yeah. Don't have. I can show you right now.
Yeah, if you can just.
Just here, I chat the link.
Throw a default little.
Just send me the link and I'll screenshot it.
Let's use Bonjour internally here so that we can. So Bonjour is Apple's internal networking chatting, so you can actually log into Bonjour without logging into AOL, which I don't ever use anymore.
You don't have to add people like everybody's just.
You don't have to add people. Whoever's on the network, you can see right there that it came up. And behind it, I have Chrometa, which is the way we manage time. We've been using it now for I think almost a month and a bit. And not only do I love it, I'm getting more and more into it as I go through it. And right now, what I'm doing is trying to kind of clean up my time and organize it. What I've been doing. So this is not group school. This is this weekend. What I'm pretty. Before the thing that has kind of gotten me to not stick to a timekeeping solution has been how rigid they were. And here it's so kind of like ADD friendly and like it just kind of look at that. It kind of tells you everything you've been doing, man. I love it. All right, so I'm gonna go animatic.
And you can go back to any particular day and reorganize things. Like that's what I've been.
6 a.m. man. I was working early. Pending invitations from LinkedIn. Is that look at that? You would forget about this stuff. I would forget what that is. What is that? That's networking. That's business development. Actually, I need to add business development. So hey, stop paying attention to my Chrometa, dude. Dude. Here, I'm disconnected. Actually, no, that's messing up my my recording of my screen. Please hold. Ari, how was Venezuela? How's your mom?
Good. It's always good to spend time with family and, just be somewhere else for a little bit. You come back refreshed and all happy about everything.
Don't the freeways seem really big when you come back from the third world?
Yeah, it's kind of like, whoa, 8 lanes. That's crazy. Yeah. And there aren't potholes everywhere. Yeah.
And there's like no stray dogs. Because Bob Barker took
Totally, there were like 5 stray dogs like right outside the airport when I left out.
Sad?
It's kind of like, what are you guys doing here? Just barking up a storm.
I was at the bus stop waiting to. My cousin drops me off at the bus stop, like not the nice bus stop, the ghetto bus stop. Whatever. It's like not be all like highfalutin or anything like that. But I needed like a presidential motorcade. No, anyway, he's dropping off at the bus stop, and there's like. There's a mother dog like waiting for, and look, she just sits over there in the corner. It makes liberals here in California cry. Prius driving Santa Monica people. But I just offended myself. It made me so sad. The doggy was waiting for food. She was waiting for people to kind of throw away their stuff, and she would go grab it and pull.
So when Chrometa pops up for what did you do for the last 10 minutes, how would you qualify that?
It gives me, what, you mean when it automatically pops up?
Does it
It's
does it
like
pop up?
when-
Does it, if,
When it's
if-
been idle, when your computer's been
Right.
idle.
Yeah, talk more about that. That's one of the things I thought was really interesting about Chrometa.
Well, it's tracking what you're doing. So if you stop and your computer goes to sleep or it goes idle, when you come back it says, hi, welcome, what have you been doing? Kind of, and you,
Right, I noticed you haven't
You
been
type-
typing or you haven't been surfing.
Right, and you just put in what you've been doing. And it gives you pre-qualified phone call, meeting. It was something that you were away from it, so you're obviously doing a phone call, a meeting, or
Right.
lunch.
That's awesome.
So it's assuming you're working in front of your computer all the time, which we kind of are
Yeah,
for the most of the day. So it's pretty
pretty awesome.
brilliant, and I personally haven't seen anything else that's done it, and I've used a lot of time keeping sleep. Oh, look, this is really cool. You can actually add a new client or a new project right here underneath your clients. So look at that. Wow. I love the fact you can add your hourly rate. You know what? I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. Let's see what happens. And from here, dude, that's slick that I can actually add a project straight from here. All right, so this has been did you guys get it? Did you pass it over?
Overrule there.
Oh yeah, totally
Maybe
works.
video.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Cool.
This I can trash, which is kind of cool. Whenever it's like a few minutes, 16 seconds of something, I don't even know what it was. Pending invitations. I'm gonna add a project, business development. Right now, I can add a new client. So client and project. So I make the group a client. Wow, and it gives you an email. I can add a new project to the group and call it business development.
So you use it for internal and external. It doesn't have to be just outward clients.
You can track all your time. So basically, I know that the pending invitation, or it could be personal time, which is home improvements, personal finance, pets. Dope.
Who do you think, in terms of the spectrum of people on our show that watch it, do you think that this would immediately change their day or immediately change their work method?
Oh, well, I mean, for Matt, who was on the show, he's one of our producers, and he went to group school. He was talking about how he can't finish sometimes projects, and time chunking. Even a freelancer, for them to get an analysis of what they're actually spending on time versus what they're building. Like one of the concerns that I see most with freelancers is, am I charging enough? The likelihood is no.
Right.
And the likelihood that there's a lot of time that you're not tracking, like Ari was saying,
Right.
that you're not charging for, that it really does take you a lot more. I think the number one issue is perceptual. Like we say, and I can see it all the time, oh, don't worry, it's gonna take, that'll be quick. Especially with clients even, would really benefit from using this to track kind of productivity and see what it really takes to do certain things. It's not the actual doing, it's what it takes to prepare for it.
Yeah, it seems this is a great compliment to somebody who's very task-oriented and they're scheduling their day out what they think it should be, with all their meetings, all their freelance, and then to be able to see on the back end, like, this is what I actually did.
Like
Yeah,
to be able
like-
to see, like I spent half an hour on a go-to meeting with the client. Hey,
and
throw
you're
that
like, oh
in
man, I
there.
only planned this to be a 10-minute call, and then being 30, I
Right.
gotta make sure I'm on top of that stuff.
Right.
Or, I thought this logo design concept was gonna take 2 hours, and I spent 20 minutes on it. Like, I can kind of like have point counterpoint back and forth now. It's almost like a way to be able to do diagnostics.
And you have the numbers to prove it. Like before, I would just store that in my head. So if I
Right.
have to like prove it to someone, it's
Right.
kind of like this will let you export like a CSV or something like that.
And you can kind of,
Oh, really? I don't think
That's
that's something we've ever talked about. So you can export this out to like a
I think
spreadsheet.
so, yeah. Let's see.
That's excellent.
Yeah, it's got to export to CSV.
Yeah, export to CSV.
That's awesome.
So you can, if you want to be a data geek, you can kind of go,
Yeah.
wow, man, who the hell built this? This is like crazy. Again, I'm on a quest to get as optimized as possible when it comes to my time and billing. Minimize, the amount of waste as much as possible. And it's hard. I'm a creative guy. This is super hard for me to do this. Extremely hard. Okay. So let's get back on track here on our task. Sorry, quick check-in halfway through our
Yeah.
today's sprint. How are you doing?
So I'm good. I'm working on that page. I added the pagination that Jacob specified, and then I just started. We never worked on the footer, so I'm taking the structure that's already there, changing the content just a little bit, Yeah, so we can have a footer there, and I'm about to shoot this over to Jacob. JPEG or PSD? JPEG? PSD? All right.
You know, one of the lessons that I just learned from what I'm learning from this as it relates to even big client projects that we're doing in Drupal, instead of because clients come with limited budgets, instead of coming up with these ideas of what we can build for them and architecting it, etc.
Right.
Do it like this.
Right, just
start
prototype
with
it.
start prototyping
It's
really quickly
perfect for
in the room
prototype, yeah.
and get a theme that we wouldn't finish applications in weeks compared to doing it in months, and then after all this architecture, then you have to theme it and you have to make it work, and you're like, oh shit, this is just a lot of work. It could have been much simpler.
I agree.
I learned more from doing this show than from anything else.
Yeah.
It seems like it's almost extending Agile Scrum to the to the delivery, but up front. Let's just get you something as fast as we can so we can start talking about something literal.
You're working on
actually physically working versus staying theoretical for too long. Even if you never ever use that, you may throw it away, but you at least learned a lot about what their expectations are.
No, you actually build it.
Or build it.
This is not throwaway. We're actually building it.
I think this is more like working on a product than just doing design, right? You do the design and it's not really clear what the implementation is going to be here. Everything's kind of happening at the same time.
The challenge is that agencies are structured, and I don't know how we're doing on time for this segment, but agencies are structured to have teams working on different things at the same time. So if I have my design team working on the architecture and the design of let's say this application, I have my dev team working on something else. When they're done, then the dev team can kind of start up and you're doing resource allocation. The problem is that the dev team wasn't as involved during the design iteration. Potentially, maybe they were, and that's the critical part, for the developer to be there from the beginning, not later on and kind of say, well, yeah, we can do that, but maybe we do that. Because then you're going to have to kind of backtrack on all the expectations.
We even had a great example just in this project, is that if Jacob was involved 6, 7, 8 weeks ago when we were talking about putting these note cards up the first time, he was the one who spotted the whole, wait, where are episodes? Where is that fitting? Where's the whole level hierarchy? We kind of proved that having him in earlier and earlier is actually beneficial. There's
no excuse or there is no substitute for that, and I've learned that from an agency model standpoint, even though that makes more sense for me as an agency principal to not have it be concurrent, meaning to have dev happening on one project and while design is happening on the other one. You're prepping the ingredients on one while you're cooking the other. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work long term. It's better to have smaller, insular teams that are working together than to have all these big teams working in waterfall.
Right.
It's so much
whatever
faster.
that means. You know what? Actually, what you do is you charge a lot more and you work in a more bespoke way, but you save the client money in the long run. If you have higher billing and you work in Scrum, pure Scrum from the beginning, the client will get way more value. Higher fidelity products instead of, and sometimes it's not possible. So maybe the startup world is the only world who can do this. I know Jason has Eric Rice coming in, the Lean Startup. I say we teach Agile to all the companies, and the companies internally start working software development in Agile. Revolution, Agile revolution. Woohoo! Let's do it. So, Ryan, I have an idea to do a group conference next year. So groupconference.com, I have to register it. And I get a million ideas every week. And it's pretty hard, and sometimes it can get expensive to be registering all these ideas. Bam, bam, bam. Not if you use GoDaddy.com. I use GoDaddy.com all the time, and for $7.49 you can register your ideas if you use the code WEB749. So if you watch This Week in Web Design and you're ready to start your site and you're like, oh my God, I gotta register my site, which is the first step. You got an idea, register it, use the code 749. Let me see, what are the ideas for next year? Group network, group friends, all these different ideas. I registered all of them, any variation of the group, including names of friends that I have. So you get the idea, you're middle of the day, ADD out, Web749. Thank you, GoDaddy.com, for helping us with that. All right, so let's do a quick check-in here on where we're at. Ari, what are you working on?
Well, I've got the footer ready. I've given the PSD to Jacob. So right now, I'm not really sure if I should go back to the homepage.
Can you hand it over to me? Can you hand me the PSD so I can see it and put it up on the screen? I'm not connected to the El Monitor. So one of the things, Jacob, we were talking about earlier in terms of letting people know, well, Ari specifically, so you're doing the comps in Photoshop in what version?
CS5.
And why Photoshop versus Illustrator?
A lot of it is, just personal preference. I think that it's a little bit more accurate. But you can really use any tool that you like, that you're used to.
And why do we even pre-visualize this stuff in Photoshop versus just kind of
just building it out? I think it's a lot easier to just move things around in Photoshop versus building
Coding
something
it.
And then being like, oh, we need to move it. It needs to be bigger.
Okay. How are you doing? What is our goal for this sprint today? So we once we have this one page that has all the episodes on it, then we can generate the content for the other ones, right? Like related and all that kind of stuff.
You can do like, if it's possible with the code, like that whole overlay, make it the color, and then white type, because that's hard to read right there.
Okay, I agree. Okay. I'm kind of like it without it. You know how on our show
Yeah, there you
we
go.
do really bright and obnoxious kind of lower thirds? They're really heavy, which is on purpose, obviously. They're chunky. What's the font? Are we gonna use the font? This
It's
weekend?
called
Okay.
Sensational or Sensation.
Sensational. Sensation. Yeah, look at it right there, dude.
Yeah.
It looks nice when you use the theme song. I'm excited about typography online. I don't care what font it is. As long as it's not a Helvetica. So fonts online, a lot of people have been you're restricted to 6 fonts when you're using HTML. You're restricted to Arial, Helvetica. Well, Arial is a cut that was made, I think, by Microsoft for Microsoft of Helvetica. It's kind of clunkier, but it works better online. Then you have Times. Then you have what else? You have Verdana,
Lucida,
Georgia. So you have a limited.
There's a limited set,
fonts,
yeah.
Right? So what's happening today is that now you have, especially with the acquisition by Adobe, which creates Photoshop and all the software that we use for not TypeKit, even though TypeKit is a good URL. Typekit.com.
Pull up the Google Web Fonts too.
So now you have the ability to really use Google Web Fonts.
So how do web fonts actually work?
It's a good question.
I mean, the first thing to consider is like the legal aspect of it. You have to make sure that the font has proper licensing, so you can't like just take a font from your computer and use it if you don't own it.
But how do they work?
You actually need to find the service, right? The actual web service. In the case of Google Web Fonts, you pick one of theirs and they give you the code snippet and you drop it in.
What does the service do? It gives you the PostScript information or the information to render the outline.
Exactly.
And it serves as a point of license.
Right.
Or as the...
Exactly. So for
thing?
So how does that work though? Does that mean you're actually putting that on your server, or is that pointing to Google?
No, it's pointing to the Google
pointing to the
server.
Google
Okay, so you
server,
basically
yeah.
type however you want, and you're saying then render it in this, and it references from Google.
Right.
So Google manages essentially almost all the licensing because they're
Right.
the
Those
repository,
fonts
and
are
then you.
exactly.
So
I wonder if it's localized once you have the code. Like, does it always have to ping the service? Like, we use Typekit and we use other services, and we pay actually like $100 sometimes.
Right.
For some sites, a month.
Right.
To license the font.
I think that gets stored in cache,
$1,000.
like once you download
Here.
it.
Yeah.
It gets stored.
Does it get stored in
Right.
cache?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
So what if you stop paying? It revokes it. Can you explain that a little better, please?
basically. I mean, the big thing is like not just. I mean, using CSS and at font face, you can take like a TrueType font or some, like Internet Explorer. Older ones use a different style, and then just put that into your code and put a link to where that font lives. And then when I go to it as a user, it downloads that font onto my computer. And that's where the big, you can't use copyrighted fonts comes from
Exactly.
because you're actually I'm delivering that font to your computer.
Got it.
And you've never bought it, so.
In print, there was no issue because it was encapsulated in the print, right?
Exactly.
Or in a PDF or in something that was kind of fixed rendered. Now that it's a variable kind of render of the font, like almost like a TV, you're paying royalties for the font.
Exactly.
That's a big
where
boom for
Typekit-
fonts.
That's where Typekit and Google Web Fonts comes in. So
Exactly.
They're managing that for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
That's actually, but what I bet Google's going to do is they're going to open source it and make it free and make it, they're going to own the data and they're going to, I totally bet that.
But the benefit
Well, the
of that
fonts are
is-
free. I mean, you can download them and
Yeah.
use them.
Yeah. The benefit of that is twofold though, because as a programmer and a designer, I have access to more styles and more cuts, but then also I can copy and paste any fonts that you use rather than, how many times people run to, I want to copy and paste that. Oh, it's a graphic, it's a design. I can't
The
actually
text
copy
is
that.
SEO friendly, and people, it's a big, the web is really going through a huge transition now, and I think that the last thing I'll say, as we wrap up the show, first of all, where are we? Can we do a preview? Can I go to like
Take a
192?
look. I mean, if you go to, I don't have a.
Do I go to 192? Do I go back
Oh no, you're fine. There go. If you go to slash week hyphen web hyphen design. So there's no big picture yet, but I was working on getting a list of.
So you got the pagination. How much longer do you think to put the picture in? Oh, so this is the episodes.
Yeah, the episodes that that's what I've been working on, like that bottom piece.
Got
So you can-
God, I hate that little loader thing. I want to kill myself.
That's the
The Drupal standard. Can we do a new one for you for Stoffers and just use it permanently?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's just a graphic.
Yeah, no, I understand, but I'll make a new one. Like it's a larger one that looks like one of the Apple ones, just a little bit more. I don't know why I hate that little guy. It's like,
Yeah, and then
so here's the list. How much longer do you think to get the one thumbnail in there? Or can we?
can't what?
How much longer is it going to take to get the thumbnail in there?
Thumbnail, which one?
In here.
Oh.
No picture.
Yeah, that's what I was debugging. I mean,
Okay.
things come up where I'm like,
What-
that should have worked, and it didn't
What's
work.
tell me a little bit about what you're debugging. Like, what are you going through?
Right now, because it's an embedded field, and it's basically linking to YouTube. So then I need to go get the YouTube thumbnail and drop it in there. And
So it's not a graphic. You're actually pulling the thumbnail from YouTube.
well, right, because all we're doing is embedding the YouTube video. So all we're doing is, hey,
Right.
YouTube, where's my video? Now it's like, hey, YouTube, what's the thumbnail for this?
So it's automatically pulling right now. They're just making the thumbnail. Like the
Well,
network is making a thumbnail and putting it in there and hard coding the link.
Yeah, it's
Right.
funny. In WordPress, we actually are making our own, and then YouTube pulls its own. So
But what you're doing, sorry,
we have incongruous thumbnails between our home site
And YouTube.
YouTube.
you're trying to pull it in dynamically from YouTube.
Exactly.
That would be
He's trying to make it
That's
come in. So you just put what do you put in what do I put in as an editor? Like what is the editing?
What do you do as an editor? You're going to content, you're going to create an episode. When you go to create an episode, you have a little button that says, add your media. Click the media, copy your YouTube URL in there and save.
And it's going to pull automatically the thumbnail and it's going to pull the information.
All the information and stuff like that you need for your
That's
How do you like that?
That's true.
All you have to do is-
In YouTube, I get 3 to pick from, and if there's another one, if I want to put my own custom, I have the option of putting a custom one.
What's it gonna? It's not gonna give you a choice. It's gonna pull one out.
It's just going to pull from YouTube, whatever you selected from
Whatever you selected on YouTube.
That's great. So it's a one decision point. It's not free to make.
You don't have to do any copy. You don't have to do anything. You're just putting in the URL.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
So
That is nice. So you're happy with that? The network is gonna have. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
something
nice.
we didn't ask for.
That we're just getting. And why did you make that decision to do it that way versus static?
It's just, it's just how I always do it. It seems like the less content I'm going to make you put in to create your episode, the better.
So somebody's just got to go and bam, bam, bam. How about the featured one? Oh, the featured one at the top. That's static.
That's going to be static. That's going to be static because you're basically building the
A
show
graphic,
page. You're
yeah.
like, okay, I've got this new show this week in web design. I'm, adding the title, the description, the host picture, the host
So
description.
we can add whatever the hell we want up there.
Yeah, and
we prefer to
then
do
basically just select an image and stick it in there as your banner.
You know what would be cool is then if for now it's going to be the featured one is going to be it's going to be selected by us. I like the idea of like taking a photograph, like with iPhone or with something, and like make it like a little higher, like, you know, or even funnier, like, you know, compose it and have it, make it beautiful or whatever it is that people go like, ooh, I want to watch that.
Right.
Okay, so how far are we in our sprint? This is a check.
How far along? I mean,
The goal is just to do these, the home,
Definitely.
actually these 3 pages, show page and the shows, which is what we're doing now.
What we're doing
shows
now,
is
right.
now. Show page is what we stopped doing.
yeah, I mean, we
have 3
were
more
hoping
sprints
to
after
be,
this.
like further along than this, a little.
So we're a little behind on the velocity.
Yeah, we're kind of a little behind on the.
What can we do
show
to
list
get
page.
ahead?
Just
And also,
work on it.
there was a promise of a stretch as per Tony's
Yeah.
Right.
direction. So I would prioritize the promise.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
So for next week, so you have a sense of what that page needs to be like. We should start working on the home
Yeah.
and like figuring out what the home graphics are. So by next week, which is the 4th sprint day, or the 4th day in the sprint,
Right.
he's gonna have this page done, and I think we should jump to the home
Right.
at that point, and then at the end, even if we don't have related art, even if we only have 2 related or 3 related shows at the end of in one individual show page. So like you have the shows index, then you have the one show, the comments, and maybe 1 or 2 related shows. That's even more than what we have now, right, on the network. And it's pulling Facebook, and it's pulling the
Facebook
shows.
comments built in.
Facebook comments are built in.
Yeah.
We're pretty long way.
Absolutely. That's a great example to show to me and Jason as a client that
Here it is in
this is the
Drupal.
MVP essentially. Here it is.
Here's the
Vertical,
MVP.
slice, everything.
Now again, and if you guys are asking, well, what about all the stuff you guys did, all the strategy and all that kind of stuff? It's all in there in terms of the thinking of the long term and the release cycles. And I think it's critical as we wrap up. It's a great show. I mean, anything, Ari, now that you're back and not on Skype, any insights from Ari?
As far as like where we are
Yeah.
on the, I mean,
How
I
do you
would
feel? 1 to 10.
I think we're doing all right. I'd say like a 7. You know, we
Okay.
just need to kind of really define what the next steps are and just move towards that. Like, what does the homepage look like? Just kind of map that out. Everything
So the
else
first
is
thing in
pretty
the
much-
next episode, we can look at the. We never actually architected the homepage. I want to look at it
Very loosely,
from the user
yeah.
story standpoint. The whole idea of, hey,
Like,
if you're
who
this-
are you?
Who are you?
Right.
Go this way.
Kind of like what we did for that iPad thing, but
Yeah,
but
but a little simpler.
for the theme, right?
And maybe how does that work within the theme? Because it can be as simple as each column represents, if you're more
Right.
techie, here are all the tech shows. If you're more creative, here's all the
Right.
shows that you should watch. Even if it's like this week in sales,
Yeah.
you know, if you're more, music, web design, I don't know. However, we end up grouping it in a way. that
Yeah,
kind
it
of
could just
plays
be
with
like as
strategy.
simple as adding a color to the specific tag or category.
Color
or-
coding the homepage
Right.
a little bit, kind of making it just those little subtle things that
Right.
that make the strategy come alive.
Right.
Awesome. Anything from you? Any insights?
Not really. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about it. I wish I could have got that whole list done today.
Okay. You have 1 hour, and you just finish what you have to do in 1 hour.
Yes.
Awesome. So next week we're going to continue finishing the list and wrapping it up, and Ari and I are going to be designing the home, and that list will finish it next week.
Definitely.
Yeah. And what people ask for is that we work on the show versus working, before the show and having everything pre-cooked. So we're only working on the show for those 6 hours to build the 3 pages that we're talking about. If you have any questions, don't forget to leave the questions below on YouTube, or to go to This Week in Web Design. Go to This Week in Web Design on the site, and you can comment also on Twitter. Twitter is here below. My personal Twitter is @Jose Cavalier if you want to send me any emails. And we're looking forward to seeing you join us next week when you watch his work.